So today I'm going to be running you guys through my February TBR. I do have quite a lot going on in February, so I am a little bit concerned about how much I'm going to get read, but I have a plan, and providing that everything goes according to that plan, I should be able to get through this moderate stack of books in the month. So my main thing that's happening in February is that I'm going to be traveling. I have a Trovatrip coming up. I'm going to Thailand on the 1st of February is when I actually leave home, and I will only get back around halfway through February. So the first half of the month, I'm not even going to be home. That being said, it takes a long time to get to Thailand and a long time to get home. So theoretically, I should be able to get through at least a decent amount of pages in those periods. But today I'm just generally once again covering the books that I have to read, the books that I definitely will prioritize throughout the month of February. But I am going to be running through this in a different order than I usually would, and that is the order in which I pretty much intend to read these books throughout the month. I don't have any reading plans in terms of things like readathons throughout the month, but aside from going to Thailand, I do have some other things going on as well, so I would not be surprised if this is one of the months of the year where I don't read as much. And on top of that, of course, it's the shortest month of the year as well. But starting off, we are going to start pretty much with my Patreon picks, also pretty much in order, because I don't think I'm going to take any physical books to Thailand. I think I just want to go with my iPad and read ebooks. That being said, when I travel, I do tend to take at least one physical book with me because I'm just worried about running out of power and just having a physical book to read. So we'll see whether I do end up taking that safety book as well. And I have no idea what that book would be if I were to take it. But one that I may have finished by the end of January is Splintered by A.G. Howard. I didn't actually put this on my January TBR. It was like my October Patreon pick. And I didn't put it on my January TBR because I actually intended to read it before the start of the year. But things didn't go according to plan in that instance. I have actually pushed this towards the end of the month because I know that there is an ebook of this on Everand, and so if I start this as my last book of January and it runs over, it's not such a big deal. I don't have to take the physical book with me. I'll just pick up where I left off in the ebook. So this one was, I think it was Alex's pick for my Patreon, and it is a YA, not quite a retelling of Alice in Wonderland, but heavily inspired by Alice in Wonderland, following a girl who all of the women in her family go mad and start rambling about this place called Wonderland, and she actually travels there and realizes that it is actually a real place and that the women in her family are not necessarily as mad as everybody thinks that they are. My December Patreon pick was Bone Spindle by Leslie Vedder. This one was Debbie's pick, and I have an e-copy of this, and this one is a gender-bent YA retelling of Sleeping Beauty, where the Sleeping Beauty, I think, is the prince, and there's two women who have to, they don't want to, but I think they have to awaken him to save the kingdom. And then my January Patreon pick was Kathy's pick, and that one is Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. And thinking about it, all of my Patreon picks have a fairy tale-esque theme to them, because this one, I'm not sure if it's YA, I'm pretty sure it's adult, but it is following a young woman whose sisters are being abused by a prince, and she realizes that nobody is coming to save them, so she takes it upon herself to visit a witch that tells her that she will give her the power to stop the prince for good, providing that our main character completes 3 impossible tasks. This one is also available on Everand. If you all saw my 2024 TBR, you will know that I have a few goals, and I'm trying to not buy as many physical books. So I am actually, normally I would have bought the physical book and then switched between the physical and the ebook anyway. I'm trying, if a book is available on Everand or Kindle Unlimited, or if it has a reasonably priced ebook, I'm trying to go with that option instead of just buying the physical for the ease of having it, essentially. So this one I will also be reading on Everand. So those 3 are the books that I plan to take with me to Thailand and hopefully plan to get throughout like pretty much the 2 weeks that I'm there and all of the traveling time that I have during that trip. I do have a Kindle Unlimited TBR that I'm going to be posting a little bit later in February. So if I manage to get through these, I do have all of my KU books downloaded, as well as like all of the books that I own on ebook to make my way through as well. I do feel like 3 is a pretty like realistic number for me though. Saying that, I probably just won't even get through 2. But I am going to do my February Patreon pick now, just in case this is another one that I can read on ebook and add to my list for Thailand. I have changed my Patreon TBR jar because I got this TBR jar in a subscription box. I can't remember if it was Fairy Loots or Illumicrate, but I needed to upgrade from the mug that I was using because it was overstuffed, and this one is a little bit bigger. So if you guys don't know how this works, if you are part of the inner circle tier on my Patreon, when you join, I will ask you to recommend a book that goes into this pot, and then every month I will draw the book and then aim to read it, ideally within the month, but within the couple of months that follow. I do get to them all eventually. It just takes me a while sometimes. But the February pick, let's go with this one, which is a purple one, which means it was added last year. Oh, this is a great one. This is Fruits Basket Volume 1 and it's Claire's pick. So this is probably not one that I'm going to be taking to Thailand with me because I do own it physically, but it's also one that I'm not particularly worried about because Fruits Basket by Natsuki Takaya is a manga, so it's not going to take me very long to get through. I have wanted to get to this series for quite a long time. It's almost a contemporary manga story, but I do know it has a magical element in it. And y'all know, even though I don't really read contemporary fiction, I love contemporary comics and manga. And this one, I think, is about somebody, does she leave home? After a family tragedy, she moves out and she ends up moving into a tent, which she pitches on private land. And then the people who own the land find out that she's there, and she finds out that they have a secret that when they are embraced by the opposite sex, they turn into animals of like, is it the Chinese? Yeah, the Chinese zodiac, which sounds all kinds of strange, but I have heard really good things about this series. I don't even bat an eye at like the chaotic synopses of manga these days, but I'm very excited to finally be giving this one a try. I do need to start a new manga series as well. I think the majority of the stuff that I've started I am caught up on or finished, so thank you very much to Claire for recommending this one. So when I get back from Thailand, I gotta put my foot to the floor with my reading, because at some point at the end of February, probably the last weekend of February, we are going to have the live show for Crown of Swords by Robert Jordan. This one is book 7 in the Wheel of Time series. As you can see, I have already started it, and that is because I'm anticipating not having very much time to finish it in February. I do listen to the audiobooks of this series though, so essentially while I've been walking Brie in the mornings, I've been listening to like 25 minutes of it, and I'm just gonna chip away at it like that until it gets to me going away, and then when I come back I'll work out how much I have left and how much I need to read per day from that point. But if you guys are unfamiliar with the Wheel of Time series, it is a classic struggle between the forces of light and dark, and we are following the Dragon Reborn, who is a pivotal figure in every age that is tasked with tipping. Essentially he tips the balance of the world either towards the light or towards the dark, and in this series we are following this age's dragon as he does what he can to stop the realms or like the world from tipping towards the dark for good. So I actually really liked book 6 in this series. This one is this, yeah, this one's book 7, and because of that I am kind of excited to get into this one. I will say I'm only like 65 pages into it. I haven't had the best time with it so far, but I do know like with the last book in the series there was a slow 300 pages before it got like really good. The next few books as well are a little bit smaller than that last installment. I would recommend, if you are going to start the Wheel of Time journey, to try out the audiobooks. That's the way that I've been doing it, and I find it much more enjoyable and easier to digest than I would if I was reading it physically, because the writing in here is super slow. The plot in some places moves really slow and it can be kind of repetitive. So this one will be my priority when I return. Hopefully by that point I will have already made a significant dent in this one. And then my other book club book for February is Bloodlands by Stacey Marie Brown, which is my Patreon book club book. This is the 5th book in the Savage Land series, which is like a almost post-apocalyptic fantasy romance series set in a world where the veil between the realms of the humans and the Fae fell, which resulted in a war. After the war, the humans and the Fae decided to split into separate halves of the city, and we are following our main character Brexley, who is the human ward of the king, the human king that is, and she steals drugs from trains means to put them onto the black market so that the people who need the money benefit from the profits instead of the elite. And one day when she is doing this, she is caught at the checkpoint between the human and the fae part of the city and thrown into a maximum security prison, where she meets this guy called Warwick Farkas, and she's just like inexplicably drawn to him. Now I do have to say that book 4 was, I liked it because it was a little bit of a change from the status quo of this series, but at the same time it didn't have that addictiveness that the earlier installments of the series had for me. So I'm hoping that this one picks up the pace a little bit. It is quite a short one. All of the books in this series apart from the last one are pretty short, to be honest, but this one is like 50 pages shorter than book 4. So hopefully this is like honestly the easiest book club I have ever participated in my life, because the books are just so easy and quick for me to fly through. So I'm not too worried about getting through this. It will just be a little bit later in the month that I have been doing the entire time we've been reading this series. While we're on the topic of book clubs, the live show for Sharp Ends by Jo Abercrombie for Catch Up Book Club was supposed to be in February, but because of my tight schedule, sorry guys, and also because if we moved it to February, if it was in February as intended, it would make the Catch Up Book Club live show schedule sync up with Wheel of Time, which literally nobody, especially me, wants. So for that reason, we are going to be rescheduling. We're going to read Sharp Ends over 2 months, and the live show for that is going to be in March instead. And then I have just one more book to talk about, which is the only book that anyone cares about in the months of January and February, which is House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J Maas. So this one is the 3rd book in the Crescent City series, which follows a half-fae woman called Bryce Quinlan, who is tasked into looking into a series of murders by the archangel of her territory, Micah, because it is believed that she has a personal connection to these murders that will help her in finding the killer. And then because this is so dangerous, she is assigned a personal bodyguard in the form of a fallen angel called Hunt Athalar to guard her and keep her safe during this time. I am both excited and terrified for this book. This is going to be the last book I read in February, and I am terrified of reading this book a month after release. Like, I am scared. I don't know how I'm going to handle this book being in the world and me not having read it. But I just, between the 30th of January and the 1st of February, I'm not going to have time to read it unless I rush it. And I'm gonna have other things on my mind, like packing for a trip and getting my life in order. So I don't want to then have to worry about having to finish this book as well, because this is my most anticipated release of the year probably. So I want to take my time with it. I want to make a spoiler video like I always do for Sarah J Maas's books. I don't want to feel rushed or pressured. So obviously I'm not going to be able to read it until after I get back, and then I am going to have to prioritize Crown of Swords. So as soon as that's done, I'm gonna lock into House of Flame and Shadow, and I'm not gonna stop until it's done. As you all know, the end of House of Sky and Breath was not my favorite. I'm a little bit scared how that's gonna turn out, but overall, like, cause I've just reread House of Earth and Blood and Sky and Breath, I can't lie, I'm pretty excited. I love a new Sarah J Maas release, you know that I do. So that was my February TBR. It looks like nothing, but we have, is it 3 books that I don't own? We have Bone Spindle, Nettle and Bone, House of Flame and Shadow. I think that's it. So that is like, that's my schedule as well of when I plan to read these. I feel like it is pretty doable, provided I can get through a couple of ebooks while I'm away. But I have to travel down to London to catch my flight, which is 4 hours on the train. And I then have, I think, the flight to and from Thailand is like 12 hours. We also have a domestic flight and a sleeper train while we're there, which is like multiple hours of travel time again. So I'm pretty confident that I can do it, but down in my comments, let me know what your most anticipated book, like what book you're most excited to read in February is. And aside from that, guys, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you want to. If you head to my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram, Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish Candle website, the Etsy for that, and a 10% off discount code. But that's it from me today, guys. Bye.
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you'll go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.